We are going to move to the next program, and also, we'll first inaugurate the trend book, which is being, you've seen that in collaboration with Adyam, the Pearl Academy and Shada University, this entire trend is that is being put outside. So it's a great combination of work from inspiration to product, one goes through. And then after that, I'm going to have a brief conversation with Mr. Manish Saxena on the three films and his, passion for craft. So so in our guest list, the first very important person, I would like to invite on the stage is Mr. Sudhendra Bhadoria ji. If we could have him. So Mr. Bhadoria ji is an eminent politician from Samajwadi Party, and of course a social worker. So that is that. I would like to invite Mr. Manish Saxena. He is the lead Adyam Handwovens. I would like to invite Ms. Bandita Abraham, President Pearl Academy, to please grace the occasion. I would like to invite Mr. Gaurav Sharma. And I would like to invite Mr. Jonathan Kennedy. Sure. All the dignitaries to come together and show the first blueprint of the trend book, that is being created by Adyam Handwovens and India Craft Week. So the idea is to basically, that how, in fact, from craft, there could be very amazing trends, that could really emerge. And then it connects to the whole world in terms of fashion, interior and architecture. And also post this, we have a wonderful session that is going to be chaired by Maliha with very eminent architects, architect friends, architect community which is there. So may I please request you to, after this post, may I request you to raise the seat. So it is very interesting, that beginning from Mr. Jonathan Kennedy, they have a very amazing program, and I'm sure that everybody knows about it. It is called Crafting Future. So Crafting Future has been one of the most successful programs which we have seen in terms of where both India and UK together has created opportunities for institutions, organizations, designers, and everybody to come together and create impact on livelihoods of of artisans and artisan communities. So Jonathan, may I request you to share some insights on the crafting community program, because it is when I looked at those films, I realized that it's so much to get inspired from, and when we talk about trends, majority of trend inspires to think, and that's the idea.
Sure, fine. So, thank you very much for those warm words. And I think whilst we talk about Crafting Futures as a kind of British Council global program, it's also and how it's inspiring. But actually, we look at the work of the artisans and their skill and artistry, and that's what's inspiring, really. It's the reverse of the coin. We see the skill and the dedication and the sense of lifelong generational commitment in parts of India where there's astonishing work in fabrics, but all kinds of crafts. It's part of the DNA of India. It's part of the absolute beating heartbeat of India. And that artisans aren't just makers, they're artists. I think we can see from the Wali art exhibition that we have, you see from what you're wearing, it's kind of rare, and it's kind of, you can't deny it. So when you see it and you think, this has been a very tough year, COVID has been a very tough year, and yet the resilience that we see, from artisans, of course, the hardship that has been experienced by way of loss of income and risks to livelihood is really an important part of why our long-term commitment in terms of our programme is integral to India Craft Week has been a kind of a marker in the year, but actually it's part of our work that we're doing year-round. And we had 6 projects across the country that we were working with UK counterpart organisations, working to support, looking at design, but also looking at enterprise skilling and the business skilling of artisans to ensure they can develop technical skills in terms of online marketing and creating things for WhatsApp groups. So some basic things, but really important in terms of understanding how to get your work to an audience, to purchase it primarily, but also to understand what this means by way of the story of India, because it's all part of that intangible connection that we have. And so we've had work in Delhi with Goldsmiths University, we've had work with Applied Arts Scotland, we've had work, Devika, help me out. Manchester Metropolitan UK, thank you very much, rescues. And we currently have a very good piece of research going on with Pearl Academy and the Ministry of Tourism for Haryana, looking at the skills and needs around various artisans within Haryana state. So we're just looking to see how we can invest in the research to ensure that the insight is then shared to then help in terms of how then what that means in terms of future investment into those communities. So that's a quick upfront.
Thank you so much. Coming to Mr. Manish Saxena. I remember your very interesting, point where you said that, you do design intervention, but you don't want to change the language of the craft. And that is something, which is, I think, remarkable, because there where, it requires immense thinking in terms of, without changing the language, how you can make it relevant to the contemporary customers. So Arjun has been doing a fabulous work, and as Manish Saxena also, you've been doing fabulous work with all the, Vivid cluster. So can you please share that, what is basic thought process behind this entire thing?
Sure. Yeah, so that is something which is truly like something which drives every part of our philosophy. And the whole idea, therefore, is that it is sacrosanct to maintain the, so to say, the signature and the language of the craft. So while we have to make it more relevant for the globe and for a global appeal and more relevant, more wider audience, but at no cost do we want to distort the original look. So Adam is based on this philosophy of restoration and authenticity. So these are the 2 guiding words for us, which helps us to work with artisans to actually recreate some of the things which have been forgotten, or they have started to do simpler work just because the market has driven them to that. So trying to do something which is bringing back the old, as well as always ensuring absolute authentic processes. And the language remains, but of course we can keep reinterpreting new seasonal trends or whatever that may be, without really losing the beauty of the craft. So it should be recognizable. That's really the guiding thought.
My another question is that I see very incredible use of color. That is something, which I very distinctly find about, your hand-woven textile. So, I mean, why it is so, and how you can really manage to do that, without losing it. So it's very interesting. So are you using all natural dyes?
So some of it is natural dyes, but I wouldn't say a very large percentage, because many of the clusters are not used to handling natural dyes. So we're in the process of working and bringing more and more of it. But yes, overall the color, I would say the color philosophy works again from this whole thought of making it more global and wider audience. So of course, when we work with the international markets, there is a very different kind of color preferences. Again, the conscious balance is that we should not make it so different that it loses the original feel of it. But yes, I think sometimes just by playing a little bit with color can reinvent the product without really making it look very off. Yeah.
Interesting. So, this is Nandita Abraham, so it's very interesting that, she has a lot of heart in craft, which I could see, from the movement in entire education of Pearl Academy in last 3 years, frankly. I mean, I know Polyacademy for so many years, but never seen, such a close connect and such a push for craft. And of course, I mean, not only her, but we have Maliha, we have Ambika, and we have Pooja, we have Urmi, we have so many people, who are die-hard fan of craft, and they have really got craft center. So what is this interesting shift in education? And also, I mean, I remember right now, you were just talking about that you're creating actually a vertical of craft. And that is really mesmerizing to hear, from many institutions so far. So what is it?
But first, I'd like to say that just being here, seeing the movies, seeing the work that you do, Somesh, is inspirational, and that's really why we engage with it. So congratulations to amazing work. And I think nobody can move away from craft because it's seductive, it's appealing, it's real, it's human, and that is what drives it. Of course, it's all my faculty members who are really engaged, and now what we've said is that every single student at Pearl will do an internship with the craft cluster or an NGO working with the craft cluster.
That's a huge round of applause, This is very, very inspiring.
I think that actually being there and seeing it is going to make a big difference, and will help young people come up with ideas as to what can help while retaining the authenticity of the craft. And one of the Crafting Futures projects our faculty is doing with Manchester Metropolitan University, and they have, because it was lockdown, so at every cluster they created like a home studio and taught the craftsmen to take photographs, post on Instagram. How do you bring your craft out even in a time when you can't come into the regular markets? So young people will find ways to make things happen. Thank you for
That's
having
really,
me.
really, very, very inspiring. Madhureji, you have been a politician, that is of course, but interestingly, you've also been a social worker, and craft contributes to, everybody says whatever, but craft contributes to the larger employment in this country after agriculture. So, what is your thought about, employability and also post-pandemic, what kind of challenges, which we are facing?
Well, let me at the outset say this, that when my name was announced, I was taken aback, because I'm the most least qualified person to speak to the most intelligent and people who are in the movement of craft. I was here just to observe, to understand, and to learn something about craft. So, in the family, like she said, my mother, who was working directly under Mahatma Gandhi with the Charkha and the national movement in the freedom struggle, and who was, of course, in jail having taken part in the freedom movement. She was all the time, every day it was a religious exercise that she would, be on the Charkha every morning. And then she would also wear her saris made out of so this is my own experience, but of course, it is so exciting, like our national anthem. You go across from Ladakh right up till Kerala, and from Assam and Nagaland coming to Gujarat, the kind of colors that you see, they excite you so much. And the kind of skills and the kind of craft that you see, it's so exciting. It's really amazing to see the different colors, the kind of work, and it is so complex that, as I said in the beginning, I'm not qualified, but I certainly feel there is one disturbing trend, that this skill and this art is on the decline. It is the machine which has taken over, and the machine which is growing so important in our lives, that these skills have to be supported a lot. And here, there are two levels. One is at the micro level, these things are happening. And at the macro level, who are running the state, who preside over the empires that run the systems, they are not so sensitized to these very important part of a history. Of course, it's a national history. It's also a global history. Across the world, you go to US, the old traditional skills, So I'm quite fascinated by what the Pearl Academy is doing, what institutions like yours are doing, and I hope there is a great future for such institutions. A lot of young people who are there in the job market or who are trying to learn about this skill, more and more come into this field. They keep this art alive, and this art has to grow, it has to survive, and it has to be nourished. And I hope I become a small worker in this movement of great strides that are required to take. That's all what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And coming to Gaurav, you've been doing a lot of product development, right? And I remember you've been associated with NCDPD, for almost more than 10 years now. And I've seen very actively, engaged with various craft clusters and doing a lot of things. So how has been your journey, and how do you think, trends really emerging there, and why, there was never a need for a kind of, trend book, etc., which has been there. Although I remember, you've spoken to me many times that there should be, right? And that's what we have been talking for the last 10 years. So what's been your experience, design journey in, various kind of products, especially in hard materials, what?
Well, Somesh, I don't know, when I was having this conversation and hearing to the people at the panel, this song was constantly playing in my mind when they talk about trends and craft and everything. Patharjhad, Sawan, Basant Bahar, or Panchwa Mosam Pyar. And it is this love for the craft, I think, that we have come to this position. And so that's how we decide the 4 seasons or in India. And when you read through these trends, these are the seasons that change, and that's how the colors change and how the trends come in. So these are not trends for me. It's the craft, the tradition, the culture. It hasn't been always been a part of the lifestyle. It became craft later. It became something later. It has always been a part of the lifestyle of the people. And I think when COVID happened and everything went for a lockdown, and this is the right time when we are actually rebooting. So we're going back to the basics now, and that's what I've been waiting for maybe. And this is the right time. You guys doing an amazing job, and Randita always after in these things, and what projects you've been handling. So this trend is more to do with those 4 seasons, and the 5th season is the season of love about we talk about products. And I think for the past 20 years almost, I've been trying, struggling with working in design, trying to bring it together, and I was working with, in NCDBD. I remember my first working with Burley, and this reminded me, I used Burley as inlay in wood for the first time. So I took that, craft and used it in a totally different way, and I did it for an exporter, and we exported those products. So we actually used bone and some of the basically black, I don't remember, wood chips, and we actually recreated Burley and inlaid it, and it was typically Rajasthani. I think it was for Basant export, so I don't remember. This was with Rajasthan exporters with you even. So I remember how I tried to bring the craft and culture to a wider audience. So I was really working with export-oriented products. When you talk about products, I was trying to bring that, my role of working with mixed media, and it gave me an opportunity to bring these things together. And then I had this beautiful opportunity going to Saharanpur and all these craft areas, and I kept bringing something or the other from all these places and try to bring them in products. So that's how I got it. Then that's where the interest of education came to me. Telling people what to do, teaching. And my first experience was this, Somesh. So you only got me into education. So I'm always, and I think post that it's never been, I've never looked back. And whenever we have a conversation, we have to do this. So we have to do this. So I think in short, maybe that's my love for the craft and the whole idea of bringing this thing to the world is why I've been always in this craft.
Absolutely wonderful. And I'm coming to Manish. Manish, there's this TRENDLOOM, right? So what's the idea behind this TRENDLOOM? If you can share with everyone, that would be good.
So actually, I fully agree with what Gaurav just said. So, and I think I've said this in this also, that handloom is above fashion, in fact. So it's a classic. It's like always there. It's a way of life. But yes, trendloom as a word, I think we chose it together was because it's always in trend. Handloom is always in trend. So that's how I would like to interpret this word as well. And what we therefore attempted to do, again, at no other time than now, we have to get back to conscious consumption, sustainability, preservation, creating things for posterity. There is a bit of nostalgia in all of us about how because we all got time to think, and then we went back in years and we started thinking that, okay, 20 years back we used to eat this, so let's try that recipe. So similarly with textiles, I think it's time when people are enjoying the older kind of fabrics. So that's why this became even more relevant, and we hope to continue this year on year. And of course, every single cluster in India brings something which can be relevant for the interior space, because specifically we've looked at interiors here. And yes, definitely. So all the craft forms will find some place or the other in some sort of inspiration, forecast, but it's not a fad, it is forever, for sure, yes.
So, Jonathan, you've always been talking about two key trends. I always remember in every conversation, you'll say, a woman is the majority, who practices craft, right? And we need to empower them, because empowering them is also like empowering the entire community. And second is how to enable technology within those communities. So if you can share, it's very interesting, because that's about future which we always speak about.
So, yes, well, if we think on such a basic level that the homemaker, the mother, the farmer in many instances, and the craft maker, all is the woman in the home. So they're kind of instrumental in driving the economy. So 56% of people working in crafts are women. So they're absolutely formative, and that's 200 million people in India. An enormous drive of wealth creation, but from the land, from that kind of understanding of the land. And as you say, talking about dyes and seasons, and how these things are all so interrelated. So when we then think about handloom and then mechanized loom, the handloom is part of the tradition, and the mechanized loom suddenly becomes a male activity in its tech. So the march of progress in terms of handloom and mechanized